scared of the future, and I hate my past. Present hurts too much, but I know it won't last. No, it won't last.
Welcome to Men Talk. I'm your host, Dakota, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this journey. Here at Men Talk, we dive deep into the often overlooked world of men's mental health, exploring topics that matter to you. From personal stories to insightful guest interviews, we'll cover everything from anxiety, depression, and PTSD. My mission, to break the stigma and promote mental wellness one conversation at a time. Let's embark on this journey together and start making a difference.
I've got a brain that wants me dead. I've got a woman that wants me in bed. And I'm somewhere in between, trying not to blow my brains out.
Hey guys, got two cameras set up today. Obviously, Mrs. Dakota's here. Welcome to Men Talk. We're back. We're back with this episode that, I've been telling you guys about, that we're going to bring my wife on and we're going to have a little conversation. And really, it's just going to be probably just us rambling because neither one of us can really figure out what we really want to talk about. She's going to ask some questions, and then, we're kind of going to go off of that. And I guess how we really coped with everything is the big thing. How we cope differently, things we probably could have done maybe better on my part, on her part, or then maybe we didn't do enough, or really whatever it may be. Yeah. So welcome, Mrs. Dakota Goss.
I feel special.
She's never done this before, just like I haven't. I think she really just spoke in her car.
Yeah.
That's what she did. She had a podcast. And, I don't know why she just let that thing go for some reason. It was very good. She was doing really good with it. So
it's just time and place for everything, I guess.
Yeah, it makes sense. Let me hide my necklace because I look like I'm back in the days where you wear your necklace and you show it. Guys, I am stressing right now so hard right now. Okay. So really so bad. I just about had a full blown on panic attack for some reason. I really don't know why. I think it's because I'm sinking in this couch and she looks taller than me. And she stole my spot because that was supposed to be my spot. So it's really stressing me out right now, really bad. And I don't like my shirt being pulled and my shirt's being pulled. I just got to breathe.
You okay?
Yes. I'm not. I'm really not okay. I'm going to make it through this podcast. But after this, you're sitting on this side if you ever come back on this episode, or if we do it somewhere else. Somewhere else, probably.
How you going to start this?
On a different couch or different chair. I don't know. I'm really not prepared to cry today at all. Whatsoever, I think is the issue. I really don't want to cry, but I know people want to hear this and people need to hear this. So I guess we both have to kind of suck it up.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And really just kind of get through it to get through this whole ordeal, I guess.
So tell me how you grieved through all of this. What was your way of grieving?
What do you mean?
So my way of grieving was I wanted to see everything. I wanted to have pictures still on the walls. I wanted to watch videos every day. Emmitt's nursery was still put together when we got home, and there would be days that I would go in there and sit and cry and read books and things like that. And I was very public, I guess you could say, about my grieving. What was your standpoint in grieving when we first got home?
I don't know. I guess mine was grieving. Obviously I was grieving. We just lost our son. So at that aspect, I don't know. I didn't think I really wanted to be a part of really anything. I didn't want nothing to do with anybody, anything. Especially Emmitt stuff, really. I don't know. I really don't know. I wasn't mad at him by any means. It wasn't I was mad at him or nothing. I guess I was just mad at the world.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a term for it really in, the mental health world, I guess. And it's where you run away from your feelings. I really don't know what the name of the term is. Obviously I'll have that term back, probably, I'll probably state it again whenever, but I don't know. I felt I wanted to run away from my feelings.
I think a lot of people feel running away is going to solve everything in your life. And honestly, I was the complete opposite. I felt if I faced it head on and accepted what was happening in my life, that I would eventually get further in my grief. And honestly, I feel both sides of things are valid, because I was very mad, not at Emmitt, but just at God, really. When we came back home, I might already start crying. Jesus. When we came back home, I was so mad. And I don't know, I felt getting like putting things away and like making our life go back to this new normal felt so wrong to me. Like when we were in Ronald McDonald House right after everything happened, your standpoint was you wanted all of Emmitt's stuff put into his room. And that way, when we came home, you had time to process what was happening before all these things were in your face. And I was the opposite. I wanted to come home and see things exactly how I left it. Like I wanted to come home and see the burp cloth laying on the back of the couch or the boppy laying on the couch where I had just had him. I wanted to see my breast pump laying on the side of the bed at the nightstand. Like I wanted to see those things, and you were the complete opposite of that. And I think in grief, sometimes you have to respect the other person's feelings as well. And I guess in that moment, my standpoint was me not seeing me coming home and those things being put away was not going to hurt my mental health any worse, but you coming home and seeing those things could have hurt your mental health worse.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I probably should have done better at that, to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie. I really probably should have. Like, I was kind of like very selfish on that one. I feel like really coming home was really the hardest part because
I think it was a challenge for the both of us. Like, I don't think there was no right or wrong in what we wanted or what to expect when we came home because neither of us knew what we were walking into.
I think that's exactly right. Like really sitting down and thinking about it. I don't know. I think like after everything that's happened, like on my side of the aspect of it is like with the wreck and losing Taylor and Megan and almost Brendan and everything. And then like being able to I didn't want to stay at the house that we lived at then.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had those same feelings like, hey, if I can get somewhere else or do something or not see it, then, I think I can make it through this, because like I said before,
because that's how you handle it.
Yeah. Like I really wanted to be, I don't know, like I really wanted to just get away. I wanted to run away from like I just wanted to run away from everything. That's how I did it I didn't really do it with like, I talk about Taylor and Megan, we talk about her and them, but at the same aspect, it's like, I was able to get out of the house that I was at, you know what I'm saying? And like with Emmitt, it was polar opposite because we just bought this house. Like we just had this house. We wasn't even in it, maybe a year after we had him. Because, so about a year. And, it's not like, oh, hey, you can just give up the house and move away or anything like that. But
it wasn't that easy.
No, yeah. So it wasn't that easy. So I think that's where I kind of wanted to be, hey, let's put everything in his room. I don't want to see it. And I think that's where that was the hard part. And that was really selfish of me, like I said, because I asked you to do something that you wasn't comfortable with and put everything up when you should, where you really wanted to have everything out. You know what I mean? I think
we kind of had the best of both worlds, and some people may see it differently, but you didn't ask for things to be removed from the house completely. You just
like there was times I did. Like there was times I did. Like the first aspect of it was like, and I mean, guys, look, me and her's never really sat down and talked about this. So like, I really want you to understand. Like me and her's never like we've talked. Like we talk all the time. We're married. We're with each other like 24/7. So I mean, we work together. We really do everything pretty much together. So we've never really sat down and had this conversation like where we've
talking about like surveying or like observing what the other person did in certain moments.
And like you're getting to see this for the first time too. So like that's what we're trying to figure this out because like, and this is where it's really going to come out. Like I know like I've stated before, like, hey, I may seem like I'm an asshole, like really when it comes to like how I acted, but I guess you guys don't really see the full, like, or have heard the full side of stuff until like now. And like, it's really going to come out and you're probably going to think I'm probably like the biggest piece of crap. But I mean, at this point, like, I just feel like, I don't know. I feel like it's the way everybody grieves, Yeah.
And I think there's such a big stigma about grief that it's like, oh, there's only one way to grieve. And if you don't grieve that way, you're not grieving. Or if you don't cry, you're not grieving. Or if you don't do this, you don't love your child. And I think this story of the both of us and how we did things differently is really going to open up to men, women, people of all different paths of life are going to be able to see that like there is no one size fits all for grief. Like you have to do what's best for you in that moment and you have to roll with it. And then when you get your shit together, you'll get your shit together. And that I firmly stand on that. I believe all grief is valid, even if I don't agree with how you grieve or vice versa.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was a time where you were like, I don't want anything. Like I want to go home and I want to forget. And we had a whole conversation that same night of like, you also have to understand that there's other people involved in this. And so that's when we came to the conclusion of, okay, Margaret and Amber and Tiffany is going to go home and they're going to get all of Emmitt's stuff and they're going to put it in his bedroom and we're going to lock the door. And when we're ready,
we'll go and see
we'll go find the key and we'll go in. And the ready standpoint in that situation came a lot earlier for me. Like within probably a week or so of being home, I want it in there.
Yeah,
like,
and that's like that's when we like really we move stuff around so that way you could actually go in there and sit down
in
like the
my
rocking chair. Yeah, like your rocking chair and everything like that, and you could sit in the room. But you know, there was that time and point that I didn't want to keep everything, and that's like what we were talking about earlier. Is that you know I wanted to come home and just get rid of it. And it wasn't that I wanted to get rid of my son because I know I just lost my son. It was that I just wanted I wanted to like forget about it, you know, and I almost made that rash decision. And I'm so glad, like there was times like during the day, like I didn't cry and we didn't cry, but like when me and Dakota were alone, it was a lot harder for both of us. I mean, there was countless nights that, you know, she's really my best friend, but we fight all the time. Like not really like fighting, but bicker all the time about like her thoughts, my thoughts, and like how we both feel about things. Cause like, you know, in marriage, obviously you're going to see the same thing is that, or I mean, your girlfriends or whatever, boyfriends or whoever it may be, you know, you're going to see the same side of things is that you may grieve differently or you may have a different point of view really. And that's the hard part because like there's things that she feels strongly about and I don't. I'm just like, hey, I don't. And you know, she like, you know, for example, she's a planner. She's a very big planner and I'm not. Like I can plan out my day and some of the stuff and I'll try to remember it, but I don't put it down on the calendar, but she has to have everything written down. And I think that was the hard part is because like I wanted to come in and get rid of everything. Like I just didn't want nothing. She wanted to keep it. And that's when like reality hit and like she like at the Ronald McDonald house, we talked about it because like we wasn't even home yet. Like we didn't want to go home to it. I didn't want to go home to it. And like she said, Margaret and Amber and Tiffany, they went and cleaned up everything for us and put it up in the room. And like having that support system was the best thing for both of us because like, you know, not many people have that. Not many people have any of that. You know, some people don't have family or friends. And like you think about them who have just lost their kids or lost a loved one or anything, and they have to go back to the place that they were at and they have to do it all themselves. Like we were truly blessed to not have to go home and, you know, now we have to just move things in there one by one. I think that would have been. If I would have
had to do it myself, I don't think I would have made it through it.
I don't think I would have. I think it would have been a lot. I mean, it was already hard enough. Like especially like even having a step foot in that bedroom.
Oh yeah,
it was like a nightmare for me. And even when we got it ready for you, it was hard. Like I didn't I went in there and checked on her like throughout the night. And like I would check on, cause like there was nights she was sitting there and she was crying and, you know, breaking down and stuff like that. And, you know, the person in me, the man that I am, I'm not going to sit here and let my wife go in and, you know, cry by herself or truly be alone. Like now there's times that she didn't want me there. Now don't get me wrong. Like there's times that she's like, hey, you know, I need this space. And you have to have your own separate times to grieve. And there was times that I did, but see, mine was a lot of hiding it, I guess. Like that's the stigma thing that comes out. Like I tried to be so strong for her and it got to the point like it's really hard to do that because, you know, you really have to kind of open up to one another because I feel like if I wouldn't have opened up when I did, or you would have told me, hey, Dakota, I need you to talk to me. And like wherever we were at, like in the car, in the shower, in the bed, wherever it may have been, if you would have never told me to just say, hey, I need you to talk to me, then I don't know where we would be at really. You know what I mean?
I kind of vaguely remember like, I think one of the very first conversations we ever had about talking to each other, it was like the first couple days after we got home from Emmitt passing away. And I remember we sat on the edge of our bed and you was crying and I was crying. And we made the agreement that no matter what time of day it was, if one of us needed each other, we would go get in the shower.
Yeah.
And we would cry it out in the shower. And then when we got out of the shower, we needed to face life again. And we promised that day that no matter how dark what we were feeling, like no matter how dark it was, I don't know how I'm trying to say this, no matter how dark our feelings were, that we would share them with each other, even if we felt like it hurt the other person. And I feel like that got us through a lot because, like, backstory, the night that Emmitt passed away, I remember going over a bridge, like on our way back to the Ronald McDonald House. We went some weird way. I don't know where we were at, but we went past there and there was like a cookout and some other stuff. And we were going to Taco Bell, I'm pretty sure, if I remember that correctly, because we had not ate in hours, and because we were going to get dinner, and then everything happened. And I remember we went over a bridge and we laughed about it, and I still laugh about it. He was like, if we drove off this bridge right now, like, what would you, like, what are your thoughts on that? And I was like, honestly, I don't even care. I was like, the one thing that I had is gone. And I was like, whatever. Like, and then we laughed about it, and it was a very morbid moment, but it was one of those moments that made you realize that we were on the same page, that we had the same feelings about things. And I remember that same night before we got back to the Ronald McDonald House, she was like, we should just run away. And I was like, I'm down.
I was so ready because we stayed at the Ronald McDonald House for a while.
Like 2 or 3 days after everything happened. And they didn't even ask us like, hey, when are you going to leave?
No, it was just like, hey, we're going to leave them alone and let them just stay.
Like I will say I've talked to people since in the past couple of years. I've talked to people at the Ronald McDonald House. There was a lady, I can't remember her name, but we had talked about it. And she was like, yeah, we just left y'all be. And I was like, thank you for that, because you'll never understand what those days of being able to process what was happening in our lives, like what that felt like to us, like what that meant to us. But we had promised that day that we were going to talk to each other no matter how dark it was. And there was dark times. There was times where I loved you so much and you loved me so much, but it was like we had lost a piece of ourselves that we couldn't get back. And even going through trauma before all this happened, this was so different. Like I felt like outside of you, like not even like taking you into consideration in that, I felt like I had failed as a mom. And I think the biggest thing in my whole scenario was like, I wanted to be a mom so bad. And the reason I wanted to be a mom so bad is because I wanted to prove that it wasn't that hard. Like it wasn't that hard to be a good mom. And then you have your first baby and he dies. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, what, why? Like, why do you have to do this to me, God? Like, why is this happening? I think I realized really hard that day that like, I felt so alone. And I was like, maybe I can't do it. Maybe I'm not meant for more. Maybe I'm not meant for this. And even putting you to the side, I think it was very hard. And when we had that conversation that we was going to be honest with each other, and if we needed each other, we were going to lean on each other. And I know you hid a lot of your feelings, and there's a lot that I didn't bring to light for a very, very long time. But I do believe that having that conversation and us saying, hey, no matter what you say, I'm still going to love you, and vice versa. But I need you to talk to me.
I think that was like having that agreement. Like I think now it's a lot harder because like, now like you're like, hey, I want you to tell me how I feel. But when I tell you, it's kind of like, oh, now you're taking jabs at me. Yeah, whereas like when this went on, it was different. It was a lot different. So like you said, you looked at me and was like, hey, I need you to tell me how you feel and what you're feeling now. Yeah. Not tomorrow, not whenever. I need you we need to work this because out.
If you need help, I need to help you.
Yeah. But I also think that it was a lot easier for us to have. It wasn't easy by any means. And let me rephrase that because it was not easy at all. But I think it was less challenging for us to be able to like not cope or be together or work together on everything that we needed to because of our support system, And we lost a lot of friends. Like we lost friends. We lost
a lot of people.
We lost a lot of people because of it. And, it's not their fault. It's not our fault. It's really, no one knows really how to act.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is something I really did
want to talk about today. No one knows how to act. It's because it's kind of like I don't know. If you lose a loved one, I'm not saying it's different, but it is a little different. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, hey, you know, your aunt passed away or your grandma passed away or, you know, something like that. I feel sorry for you. And like, I think that, or I'm sorry for your loss. Now I feel sorry for you, obviously, but I'm sorry for your loss. And like, that's like the common response for everybody. But I think it just hits a little bit different. I'm not saying nobody's loss is worse than anybody else's or their trauma is worse than anybody else's. That's not what I'm trying to say here at all. I'm just saying like, it's a little bit different in the aspect of like, I don't feel like anybody knows what to say when you lose a kid.
No, they don't.
No, it's kind of hard because like, yeah, they're saying I'm sorry for your loss. And it's kind of like, I don't know. In my aspect, it's like, hey, screw you.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not saying, I'm not trying to be mean or like rude about it, but it's kind of hard because like, that's just how it is. You know, people are just like, hey, whatever.
Yeah. But before it happens to you, you don't know how to act like, cause it's like,
no.
I think our biggest mess up in all of it was while we were inside all of the grief, we expected for everyone to have all the right answers and they didn't. And I regret that a lot with a lot of the relationships that did not or were harmed in that time of my life. I've mended a lot of bridges that I burned because yes, they may have done something wrong.
We didn't know how to act because like we expected, because like
I expected so much more from people.
Yeah, because like when you lose someone, like when you lose like that person or whoever it may be, you expect them to be able to know how you're grieving. And like, I'm going to tell you what, like I've lost a child. I've lost 2 kids. You know, and I still don't even know how to act like towards other people. You know, like I've had plenty of friends who have either lost kids or losing their kids or losing a loved one or anything. And I really still don't even know how to act. Like I think that is kind of like the whole issue with it is like the way that I see it is now, especially now, is I don't really care to mourn someone someone we've lost. Like I'm not one of those. It's like, yes, I'm sad. But I'd rather like, especially like in Emmitt's case, I wanted to run away. I guess that's a little bit different. But like other people's aspect of life, it's like, you know, I think we should celebrate their life, you know? And I'm so glad that we did that with Emmitt was like his celebration of life, basically, instead of like a funeral, you know? And like, I'm so glad, like, I'm really glad that we decided to have him with us and, you know, decided, you know, to cremate instead of bury, because I feel like that would have been hard. And like we see people who have buried their children, and it's not that it's hard. It's not that it's any easier or any harder. It's just, I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit different.
It's different.
Yeah. I feel like it's a different aspect of things because like
this year's opened my eyes a lot to that.
Yeah. Especially because like, you know, we've had friends who have lost kids, especially like this year, you know,
and family.
Yeah. And family and stuff like that. We've seen like family who have lost their children, and it's a lot different because like you're actually seeing them go through a whole burial process. Whereas like we didn't, like we did not do that. And
a lot of people probably are like, I don't know, when I opened up to the internet about like kind of what we did, which there's a lot of trolls on the internet, and not everybody I talk about is people from Surrey County, but like there was a lot of, oh, why'd you cremate your child? That's so bad. Like that's not a good choice. And honest to God, I even now thinking a lot clearer than we did almost 6 years ago, I would do the same exact thing over again.
Well, we had everybody like commenting at that point.
Yeah.
Like we literally had like everybody.
We had a lot of people trashing us. And I think that needs to be saved for a whole nother video. But like,
it was kind of wild.
There was a lot of people that had called us murderers and like said that we killed our child and this, that, and the other. And none of it was our fault. None of it was anybody's fault, because at the end of the day, I really firmly believe that what is going to happen no matter what you do.
I agree with that.
And I believe that when it's your time to go home, it's your time to go home, and nothing's going to stop that. And I don't understand it. And it's infuriating because this year I've lost a lot of really close people, but like it's one of those things that I don't think we could have done anything differently. Now, in the moment of grief, like that first year to 2 years, I blame myself a lot. I looked back at what could I have done differently, or how could I have done this differently? And in that year, we were pregnant with Everett. And then when Everett was born, we were psychopaths. Like nobody could touch our child. Nobody could touch our child. Nobody could come in our house for like 5 weeks, I think. Like
I think it was longer. I don't know.
It might have been a little bit longer, but it was super ridiculous time. Nobody was allowed in our house. And Family had to FaceTime. Nobody was allowed at the hospital. If you did come in our house, like me or Dakota or whoever, like you had to shower and change your clothes before you could even go sit on the couch.
We literally did. Yeah, we were taking showers.
You could not do anything. And like we had like jumbo bottles of like Germ-X all around the house. Like
we had Germ-X, we had gloves.
We were like, we ain't messing up. Like we ain't doing nothing. And like, I think that's like, and I laugh about it, but it was a very sad time. Like, because it was like, I was going through, like, I didn't have really bad postpartum depression with Everett because I was so excited that I had like a redo, like another chance of like not messing up, I guess you could say. And that's not taken away from Emmitt's life. That's just saying like, I was so excited to finally have a child in my arms that wasn't dying.
Yeah.
And that sounds bad. And I mean, I've talked about a lot of stuff recently and like, I'm not afraid of how I feel. I'm not afraid of some of the things that I say, even though some people are probably like, oh my God, why did she just say that? Because that is the problem. That's the problem with grief nowadays is everybody feels like they have to be like always like
on eggshells
yes. about how they feel. But grief does not fit in a box. Like
everybody grieves differently.
Exactly.
100% differently. Like that's the same way me and you were like what we're talking about. Like we were 100% different. Like I'm a very morbid person. I feel like, like I would rather say like bad jokes or crazy jokes or whatever it may be. Whereas like, you know, you're kind of you're a lot different. Like it's kind of teeter-tottering with you, you know, kind of like a seesaw sometimes.
After Emmitt passed away, I read a book called, I think it's called Almost Your Mother or Almost a Mother.
I don't know. You kind of read like a lot of books, ain't you?
Or something like that. No, like 2, not a lot.
All right. She read that one and like Girl, Let's Heal Your Hurt or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you
I'm good.
But
I pay attention.
So I think it was Almost a Mother. And, it's by this small artist up north, or like writer up north. And she was a teacher and she had went through, I think it was twins that had passed away or something that were stillborn. And in her book, it was so funny because in the first few days and weeks, really, after everything had happened, I would get like feelings that I was like, man, should I really be feeling this? Like, why am I feeling this way? Like towards certain people, towards certain comments that were being made to us.
Yeah.
In that book, it said that she had walked in Target and this was right after she got out of the hospital having her babies. And she was grieving and there was a mom that was like super pregnant. And she said, I don't even know this lady, but all I could think about while I was in Target is that I wanted to punch her in the face. and like this was early on in the book. And I was like, yep, this is my story. I need to read because like the way that she portrayed like child loss made me realize that a lot of the things that I was feeling was really valid, even though deep down I felt so ashamed for feeling some of the ways that I felt. Like there was people that announced their pregnancy super early after Emmitt that was kind of in our lives. And it's not that I had anything towards them at all. It was something inside myself that was like, why now?
Yeah.
Why here?
Yeah.
And I don't feel ashamed for that. I'm sure that I've told family and other people that, but like, there's a time and place and I don't know. There was certain things that had happened that made me be like, why? Like, why are you going to do this? Why are you going to say this? It made me want to throat punch some people that I cared about.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I saw them in any other different light by what they did or what they said. It was just like, why?
I just feel like it's because our expectations are like kind of set so high. Like I feel like as like something happens, you kind of set your expectations set really high. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there was aspects like you talk about the story about the bridge, but like grieving was kind of crazy because like the story that sticks with me the most, or like the memory that kind of sticks with me like really hardcore is like your sister and Tiffany wanted to take us out to eat. And do you remember this? Like we went to Kyoto's? No, not Kyoto's. Arigatos? No, Tokyo. Went to Tokyo. There we go. God,
we'll go through every single one.
We're going to go through them all, guys. Yeah, remember like we went to Tokyo and like we couldn't even eat. And, like
I remember this because I'm going to say this wrong. I dissociated, like zoned out.
Yeah.
Because we had sat in that same restaurant when we were pregnant with Emmitt talking about how when he was born, we was going to take him there.
Yeah. And like, we were like bawling in the restaurant and all of us. And that was the crazy part. Like even your sister was like, I was like, oh man. And you know, we had
made a very bad choice to go there.
Yes.
And I I do remember that. And that was
But that was the hard part. Like
2 days after Emmitt had passed away. We were still at the Ronald McDonald house because they came and picked us up there.
And that's what's so hard, because like you're trying to like kind of move, like not move on, but you're trying to get back to life. And that's what's hard.
And I think it was like the reality. I think that day reality hit us of like all the plans that we had made for our life were not going to happen.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like when we wanted to just run away.
Yeah.
I think it was like, if we didn't have that house, we probably would have just left.
Probably.
Like we were really worried though. That was the aspect of me. And that's the whole type of different like grief too, is because like how you said you felt in the hospital, like you said you had failed or felt like you failed at like having Emmitt and stuff. I think that's kind of like the same thoughts that kind of went through my mind. You know what I mean? Because it was kind of like hit or miss. Like after everything that's already happened, you know, after the wreck, after Brendan, after my entire childhood, after your entire childhood.
When am I going to get a
Yeah, because like you didn't even have like the best childhood either, you know? So like us like growing up, you know, now it's, oh, why is this happening to us? And it's not that I don't blame anybody. I can't blame nobody, but like I was mad.
Deserves it over us. It's just the fact that like I think it's a human thing in us to be mad and question like why.
Yeah, like why? And I did question a lot. I mean, I feel like I questioned. Like I feel like I did question God a lot. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't, because that's a lie. You know, and this was not created to, you know, tell lies on how we really felt. So I guess it's kind of just being 100% raw. But at that aspect, I asked a lot of questions like, why me? Why us? You know, why did we have to go through this? And then at the same thought, you're thinking, I failed. I failed my wife. I failed my son.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nothing we could have done. Like really, like when you're sitting here thinking about it. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people I don't know. I feel like a lot of people judge stories, and I wanted to talk about this too today, because it's like when you see on Facebook, whether it's somebody you know or somebody from a county over or state over that have lost their child or have lost something, like someone very close to them, like a sibling or something like that, and you just automatically assume you know everything about that story, and really you don't know anything. And like people think, oh, what? I read WXI's article. Bullshit, because the news puts out what they want to put out about things, just like with the wreck. Like there was a lot of misinformation that was published, and I feel like in Emmitt's case, everybody kind of pieced together a bunch of different facts that were told and then formed them into something completely different than what happened.
I agree.
And I believe, and I've seen that a lot this year too, of how someone's passed away and everybody just automatically assumes that they know what happened, you know?
Well, we've seen that. Yeah, we've seen that firsthand, like, even away from us, like with our other family, you know, with our family.
And it's like, I don't agree with that. And, you know, before this ever happened to me, I didn't think that way.
Yeah.
I would read an article and be like, they're probably shit parents, or, you know what I mean? Like you would make judgment. And I that's why I'm real and like raw about things like this, because before this happened to me, I thought very differently about a lot of things that happened. Like on social media, I would automatically assume things and I would just act like, oh, they are just terrible people.
Yeah.
And in reality, like you don't know what happens behind closed doors and you don't know people's story. And after going through what we went through and like knowing that both of us was kind of like had suicidal thoughts and like had feelings about things, like you don't know if a comment that you make on a news article, like when WXI posts something and then there's a bunch of comments below it, like the day it gets published, you don't realize that there's a family behind the screen, like reading all of that. And
I've never understood why like people really comment on it in the first place.
Yeah. And I believe when children are involved, comments should be turned off. Like I believe that there should not be a way for people to comment.
I kind of feel like, yeah, to a certain degree. Yeah. Especially because children. Yeah.
The news puts out what they want to put out. And it's not just that too. Sometimes the news don't have all the information. So they put out what they have and then it's very misleading.
Well, that's kind of like with the wreck. When the wreck happened, like Taylor had her cosmetology bag in the back and there was suitcase and like they came and shot, like they were shooting out there and you watch it or whatever. And they're saying like they were like the family was going on vacation.
Yeah, I did. I didn't remember seeing that.
You know what I'm saying?
Suitcases or whatever.
Yeah, and that's like the same thing with like...
They just form their own ideas of what they see because... And I did see this firsthand this year that like when something tragic happens, if they don't get information from the people they want information from, they're going to get it one way or the other.
Or they're just going to kind of make it up too.
I had a detective look at us and be like, hey, like if you don't give them something, they're not going to stop. And I feel like that's so bad.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's so.
They're going to ask somebody that thinks they know.
Yes. And then they're going to get the wrong information, and then they're going to post the wrong information, and then it's going to make everything look completely different than what it should be.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this and you see things on Facebook happen with other children or like spouses, a domestic violence situation, like never think you know something unless you were there.
Or like a separation or anything like that.
Exactly.
Because like at that point you're judging them. Yeah. And if you're going off of like other people's stories, then in reality, you really don't know that. You know,
you don't know shit if you're going off what everybody else says.
Well, that's because like the same kind of stuff happened with us and Emmitt. You know, like we were being told everything. Like I'm telling you, like when you put something out there in the public, everybody comes out of the woodworks.
And I asked for it, I guess, because I made a page for Emmitt. And I say I asked for it, but I didn't ask for it. I didn't deserve any of what was said to us.
Well, you didn't ask for like all the activists and stuff like that to come on there and say stuff.
It was crazy because I'd made a Facebook page the night we were admitted to Brenner's.
Yeah.
He was actually getting his umbilical cord line put in, and
his central line.
No,
is that what it is?
No, it was an umbilical because it went through where he was a newborn. They went through his umbilical opening.
Yeah, I remember.
And put a line in. That was the very first one he got because they couldn't get an IV. And we sat in this waiting room that had like a microwave and all this stuff. And we was in the PICU at this time. They did it bedside in the PICU. But we had to leave the room. And I made a Facebook page called like Emmitt Strong or something like that. And I had made a long post about, hey guys, like things are not looking good and we really need prayers. This is our situation. It was a super long post and it was a picture of Emmitt. And I mean, probably an hour or two after that, it went viral.
Yeah.
Like it had thousands of shares.
Yeah.
And most of them were positive. But some of them started trickling in that were not positive. And things got really bad when I announced that he passed away. The night that he passed away, I don't know if you remember this, I threw my phone against the wall at the Ronald McDonald House.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because someone was like, you killed your son. And I mean, and it wasn't just one person. It was a lot of people. And the reason, it wasn't even people from Surrey County. It was activists against like
everything, like circumcision
and all these
like
things,
not breastfeeding or breastfeeding.
And I breastfed my child, that child, but like none of that matters. And like it was activists that somebody was sitting behind a computer and had shared it with their whole circumcision activist club and was like, hey, this lady just killed her baby. And it was not that. Emmitt's death had nothing to do with circumcision, but they took one line of his story and morphed it into what they wanted it to be. And there was articles written about our child. If you Google his name, there is articles from the UK about him. Some are positive. There was a few news places in the UK that reached out to me. I had a TikTok that went viral and they asked if they can make an article about what the TikTok said. And it was basically like talking about how like to not kiss babies and blah, blah. And I think that moment there, a lot of people started making articles that were untrue. And there's like all these activist sites that had posted things and saying like, don't circumcise your kid because this could happen and this, that, and the other. And it didn't have anything to do with that. But I think that hurt me a lot. And I did not expect for it to go as viral as it did.
No, well, I kind of guess it was kind of like they made him like a poster child for something that he should have never been for because it had nothing to do with it.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like literally taking a picture of your face and saying
and plastering it all over.
Yeah, plastering it all over the wall and
circumcise your children.
Yeah, and saying something like outrageous that you obviously know that you're not doing, and then just them doing it. You know what I mean? It was
a very crazy moment, and I don't know. I want to hit on the whole don't kiss babies thing. You do realize with a lot of the thing about don't kiss babies is like, oh, it's RSV season and you don't want your baby to get cold sores and HSV1 and this, that, and the other. But like we had an infectious disease doctor tell us how easy it is to spread these germs to a newborn and kill them without even kissing them.
Yeah.
And I think that hurt me more, like hearing that it was so easy and that it was like 1 in 14,000 babies die a year from what our child was diagnosed with, not technically what he passed away with according to the hospital. But like, I think that hurt a lot because it made you realize like we had no control.
Yeah.
Like it could have come from anywhere or anybody at any moment. But that is why you need to wash your hands. That is why you don't need to put your hands in the baby's mouths. That's why, like, I still to this day don't really hold babies. I don't shoot newborns. Like, I shoot everything. Like, I will literally, I'm going to knock my glasses off my face. I will literally, like, shoot any type of photography you want. But if you call me and want me to shoot newborns, I can't do it.
Well, that's like the same thing with like Dustin. Like
Yeah.
we didn't like.
Yeah.
I don't think we've
Like,
ever. I've held Luca for like the first time. Like maybe we were still at the office last year, like our office together or whatever, and I held him probably the first time then.
You know when I held Luca for the first time?
When
we were out here in the yard taking Dustin and Caitlin's pictures. And that was like a day or two before Halloween of last year.
Yeah.
And she had him in what, June? July?
I think so. Yeah,
something
June,
like that.
Somewhere in June.
Yeah, I'm terrible with dates. But like,
sorry guys.
I wouldn't have even held him that night, but they wanted a picture by themselves and he couldn't sit up by himself. So like she handed him to me and I put him on my hip and I took the picture and then I was like, here, you can have your baby back now.
Yeah. And like now he's walking.
I didn't even hold him the other day. And I mean, I have conversations with people that have babies all the time that are in my life. And I'm like, I just want you to know before you have this baby that like, I'm not holding it.
Well, that's like the same aspect. Like Brendan, like he has a baby and like we like, and he's had, you know, and we're like, nope.
I had the whole conversation.
And like, we didn't even hold him until like I held him. Like I didn't hold him like when they first came around, but like now I hold him.
And I told Brendan the other day, I was like, when this new baby gets here, I'm not touching it. And like, just please respect that.
Yeah, just like stay away.
Like I was like, I love you.
It's like we love you, but not your baby right now. Okay. Like we love him or her or whatever he's having, but it's like, no.
I think the correct terminology of that is like, or the correct way to say that is I love your baby too much.
Yeah.
To hold.
Yeah, I think so. Like I love your baby.
And like, I mean, Stella.
Yeah, we didn't hold Stella.
I held Stella when she was older.
Danny and Ash is about to have a baby, and like, nope, I ain't touching your baby before.
I told her straight up. I said, I love y'all so much, but I can't. And it's not even a trauma thing about like babies giving me PTSD anymore. It's safety.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And it's not like
I want to make sure that your baby lives and I will have a lot to do with your child when it gets to the age that it can fight diseases.
Yeah. It's kind of, but it's kind of like, you know, we're kind of like shunning ourselves because like we're like disgusting people or something. And we're not disgusting people.
No, but like, I think that infectious disease doctor that day that he spoke to us
kind of like scared us.
And he explained to us how easy it is. And like that your baby has zero immunity to anything for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Of their life. And I see people that take their baby to like Walmart in 2 weeks. And I'm not trashing you. There's people that like have no support system.
You have no support.
Village.
Yeah, so you can't
You have
no
village and you got to do what you got to do. But if nobody takes anything from our story but this, it is to be as safe as possible with your children as far as germs go, because I don't think people really understand the power of germs to a baby.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the hard aspect because like you could have anything, like literally anything that you don't even, like you probably don't even pay attention to it. Like you can nick your finger like with a knife or something like that. And you know that you have a little cut, and like you think, oh, that cut's healed up. But like if it opens up just a little bit or whatever it may be, you can transmit anything, even if you don't have nothing like you said, like they don't have an immune system.
But so you can have things dormant in your body. That's what the infectious disease doctor told us, that things could lay dormant in your body that has not like been activated for you, but like you can still transmit it to someone that cannot fight it. And like a big thing with babies is people like to hold babies' hands, like they'll play with babies' hands, and you do not realize
that baby puts their hand in the mouth.
First thing that babies do, they put their hands in their mouth. And Emmitt used to do the same thing. He would hold his hands like this right here on his mouth, and he would like lick on his hands and like suck on his hands, and like every little bit of germs. How many times do you wash a baby's hands? Like, think of it that way. Like, I mean, I know that you bathe babies and I know people wipe babies down, but like, does the baby go to the sink and wash his hands? No.
It's kind of crazy because like we really sound paranoid like when we're talking about it. But like as you're sitting here talking about this, I'm over here thinking like, man, like what if you have fingernails, and like how often, I mean, yes, people clean their fingernails and stuff like that, but how often do you like really pay attention? Like what if you have something underneath your fingernail? Like I'm over here thinking like every little thing, like
it's wild. Okay. I want to ask you some questions.
It's kind of really kind of crazy to really think about. I'm almost probably taking myself like out of frame. My back's starting to hurt, guys, because like I'm not sure. I hate this couch. It's not that I hate this couch. It's just
it's you was comfortable here and I moved you last minute.
Yeah, you did. And sorry, guys, I'm getting worked up all over again.
So what do you think was the hardest or worst part about coming home after Emmitt passed away, minus the fact that Emmitt passed away? Like, what do you think was your largest struggle coming home?
Like my hardest struggle coming home?
Yeah. Like, what do you think? What was the hardest thing to face?
Coming back to an empty home, I feel like.
Really?
I think so. I think that I was so prepared. I was so excited to come home as like a father. You told me like we had just built this house, like not built the house, but like
bought the house.
We had just bought this house and we were starting to work on it. And then like we had tried so long for having a child, like so long it felt like, and it's like nothing would work. Well, then, we buy the house and then all of a sudden we find out we're pregnant. So it's like, oh, God does work in mysterious ways. Yeah. So it's kind of like, oh, now you're ready. You have a plan. You're good to go. And then after losing Emmitt, it was like, oh, wait a minute. Coming home to that empty house that we wanted to be our home. Yeah. And I think what hit me the hardest in like me thinking that I failed you and failed everybody else was like when we first pulled into our driveway, and like people really, like I've told this story, but people don't really understand like to the light of day, like me and you did not have a whole lot growing up. No. Like we did not have a whole lot. Like we didn't have parents who owned their homes. We didn't have that. And like, this was like our first big step. Like we were buying a house before a lot of people were.
Oh yeah.
Like the people who own houses in like my family were, like my aunt and uncle and my aunts and uncles and stuff like that. And not everybody, like Yaya and Uncle Todd.
Yeah.
At that aspect of it. So I didn't have anybody that really had that. And so like me and you finally had what we had worked so hard for. Like, and we work every day to keep what we have. Yep. And I think that was the hardest part was when we bought our house and then, we find out, oh, thank God, you're pregnant. Wow, this is a blessing. To now you come home and it's empty. Like I'm not hearing that baby cry and getting to watch you struggle as a mother, watch me struggle as a father, because like there are so many stories that you guys are going to hear, because I can literally sit here and talk to you for hours.
Yeah, like I'm not even hitting all the things that I want to hit today, so we're gonna have to do this like every couple of episodes. Yeah, we're gonna have to revisit
because like we're rambling, because like this is our first time, and like we want to tell you guys a lot, so it's going to be all over the place, and it has been all over the place. But I think that was the hardest part, because scratching like all the other stories and getting back to where we were at, I think that when we first found out that we was having a kid, I was excited. I knew you were extremely excited, because like, it was like, wow, finally it happened, and then at the same aspect, it's like, I'm going to be a father. I'm nervous. I'm like all over the place. How am I going to be as a father? How am I going to treat my son? Because, I didn't have a father figure in my life. I didn't have nobody in my life to show me how to be a man. I didn't know that. I didn't know how to be in touch with my emotions or how to cope with certain things. So like at the aspect of everything, it was like, how am I going to teach my son that? And I still struggle with that now with both of my kids, like with both of Everett and Elliot. Like I still struggle so hard with that, because I still don't know how to do it. And I'm working on that. Like that's why I've started this, and I want to help somebody else with it, because I don't know how to handle it. So I think that when we first came home, or we first realized we were coming home, I think it helped. I think it tremendously helped a lot with Margaret and Amber and Tiffany coming in and helping us, because I think if we would have had to have done all of that, I don't think we would have made it. I don't think I would have made it. And when I say made it, it was a lot. Like, I don't think I would have made it through any of it. I don't think I would have been able to cope with it. I think I would have been just broke down even more than I already was. And it wasn't that I was good, because I know I wasn't. I was hiding so much stuff or holding on to so much things, like so many things, because I didn't want you to know that, hey, you don't have that extra support in case something happened to you. Yeah. And I think that's the whole stigma behind the men aspect of like, hey, you have to be strong. And yes, we do have to be strong. But at the same time, like, I'm allowed to cry.
Yeah.
Like, I'm allowed to feel emotional. I'm allowed to feel sad that my son had just passed away.
Yeah.
And I think that was the hard part. It was like coming home and not hearing anything.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Complete silence.
That's what it was. And it was just us crying all the time.
I don't even know how long it took us to turn the TV on.
Yeah, like I didn't care to. Like we cried all the time, and people were coming over, people were talking to us. Yeah. And it was just like everything is going through your mind at this point, because you've just lost, like we've just lost everything. Like we didn't lose each other, and like we were still struggling with that, because like we didn't.
I mean, it was a big struggle, and we admit that like our love for each other was super strong, but in that moment it was like it hardly didn't matter.
Yeah, because like you're going through so much. It was like and I've said this before, I've never once had that thought that I wanted to leave you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I've never sat down and said, hey, I want to leave my wife. I can't be with you. And like, that's kind of,
and we weren't even married.
And it's kind of crazy. Yeah. We wasn't even married. Yeah. It's kind of crazy because like I wanted to run away from everything else besides you.
Yeah.
That's what's weird. You know what I mean?
Unpack me in your suitcase.
Yes, like I was going to pack in my suitcase. Like I was going to take you. Actually, I was probably going to get like one of those baby carriers. I already had one at the house. So I didn't have to get one. I was just going to put you on my back and just carry you out the house, But at that aspect, I didn't want to leave you. You know what I mean? Like, and I know that's different for everybody else.
We were all we had.
Yeah, and I know it's 100% different for everybody else, because of like your relationship already may be rocky, or it's not, and then now you're having a baby, and now it's brought you together. But as soon as a child, you lose a child, then it's like, oh,
what are we doing this for?
Yeah, what are we doing this for? And like, I honestly could sit down and I can sit here and tell you guys, or tell you, like, I'd never even had that thought. Like, it's kind of crazy, because like coming home, it's like, I don't want this house. I don't want this house anymore. I don't want Emmitt stuff. Like, I want
life that we have, we didn't want anymore.
Yeah, I wanted to get away. And I think that's what's helped us a whole lot too, is that we had a support system, but we also had people who cared for us. We had a good support system, I would say. Like, really, we had people that was there for us and that was there to help us. But I think what helped us too, what hurt, and this is where I was getting with this, I now remember, was like not feeling like I failed you and failed everyone else. But now you're also thinking, what's going to happen to us?
Yeah.
And like, what I mean by that is like, what's going to happen to our house? I can't run away from my house. I just bought this house. Exactly. So am I going to lose my house now?
Because we had a lot on our plate.
Yeah. And like we're not rich. It's kind of like, oh, wait a minute. What happens now? Because like you don't want to go back to work, but now you have no other option but to go back to work.
Yep.
Or you're going to lose your house, or you're going to lose your car, or you're going to lose everything else that you've worked so hard for. And that was probably like the hardest slap in reality.
The unknown part of it.
Yeah, because like that's not only what's going through my mind, like that I failed you and stuff, but now it's like everything else is like racing through my mind. Like literally everything. It's like, oh, where are we going to now? Yep. And then we're trying to figure out, like, now I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to cope with this? Like, how am I going to deal with my emotions? How am I going to help with your emotions?
As a man, I feel like that looks a lot differently than a woman would look at it, because like I was worried about those things, but deep down, honestly, like my feelings were like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Like if we lose it, we lose it. Like, I mean, did I want to lose our home? Did I want to lose everything we worked so hard for? No, because we worked so hard to get where we were at. But at the same time, I was just in such a dark hole that it was like,
yeah, like was, yeah. And I think that was the hardest part, because I didn't want.
I know.
And in reality, as much as I say that, like my emotions were like I wanted to run away, because I didn't feel that way. I don't think I ever wanted to lose our house.
Yeah.
And I think it was like when we first pulled up to when we first pulled up to this house, when we were first shopping for houses, we looked everywhere. We looked forever. And then, we finally pull into our driveway where we're at now, and you look at me and you say, this is where I want to raise my babies. Like, yeah. And like, this is where I want our house to be at.
And that was before we had babies.
And this is before we even had babies. This is before we were even able to buy the house. This is kind of funny because, we lost that house at first because like someone, I guess, bid us or whatever it was.
And then they backed out and then we got it. And I felt like it was God
like telling us like,
giving
hey,
us a sign that this is where we were going to raise our kids and that everything was going to be okay. And then we lose Emmitt and it's like, what?
Yeah. And like, that's what's going through my mind,
Yeah.
And I think that was like the scariest part about coming home was not only did, I watch you carry my son for 9 months. I watched you go through all these stages of pregnancy, which was the cutest thing, by the way.
No.
But, it's kind of like,
our memories are here.
Yeah, now our memories are here, and
that we knew about Emmitt was there.
Yeah,
that was the only place Emmitt had ever went.
Exactly, and that's like, man, do I really want to give this up? No, I don't. But like coming home was like near impossible, and I think like it was because it was so quiet. We didn't have our son with us. We were talking, but when we talked, we were crying.
Yeah.
And when people were coming over, we were sitting in the living room and like people come over and talk to us and, hey, I'm sorry for your loss, or they'll sit down and talk to you, or I'm praying for you and stuff like that. And at that time you're like, okay, thank you. Like, what do you say to someone like that? Like, what do you say? Like, what is your response supposed to be? Like, lost my kid. I don't need your apologies.
I don't know.
Or yes, I truly appreciate what you're saying for me, but I just lost my kid. Now please leave. But you don't want them to leave. That's the hardest thing, is because like people want you to leave, and people may seem like they want you to leave, or you may think in your mind at that moment that you want them to leave. But when you sit down and really realize it, by the time everybody was gone, and people stay with us all night. I mean, there was nights like Amber and Tiffany came and sat with us. We sang freaking karaoke, like, and your sister actually sang. Like, that's odd. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, oh, now what do you do?
Yeah.
Because your house goes back to being silent.
See, it's crazy because the hardest part for me coming home was that exact thing. Was we couldn't go to Walmart without random people running up to us and being like, oh my God, I'm sorry for your loss. How are you doing? How do you feel?
Well, that's why we shopped away from Mount Airy.
We are 4 days from being, like, we've been home 4 days. And you're asking me how I'm doing, and I just lost my child. And I'm not mad at people, but that's the reality of like any type of loss. I do not want, I don't know. Don't ask me how I'm doing. Well,
it's hard. It's hard for that because
it is hard. It's a battle. It's a gray area.
It is because like you're not, I'm not mad at that person. Exactly. I'm not mad at you for asking me how I'm doing, because like there was people in our community. You're mad at
life in general.
Yeah.
And you're so salty, I guess you could say, after you experience some sort of death, that it's like, why are people, and I think what hurt me more than the whole, how are you doing? How do you feel? Blah, 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 is people asking questions.
Yeah.
People asking, well, what happened?
Yeah.
How did y'all end up in the hospital?
I think that was hard. I really do think that was hard too.
And I wasn't ready.
It's like, it's not like I'm mad at, and you can't be mad at that person. You can't, because like they're, like our community, like I've said before, has been really great to us.
Exactly.
We tried to go eat with our family. Like they took us out to Chili's, and like someone paid for our food, and people were sending us like gift cards, and they were helping us out as much as they physically could.
I think that was the number one thing that like people did that I respected more than anything in that time, was like being at a restaurant. Not that I wanted people to pay for my food, because I didn't. We would get mad every single time because someone would pay for our food. But in that time, looking back, there was several people when we would go out in public to eat, they would pay for our food and just leave.
Yeah.
And they would tell the waitress, like, let them know we're thinking of them, and would not bother us.
Yeah.
Would not ask questions. It was one of those like deep down, I'm thinking of you and I'm praying for you and I'm rooting for you.
But I'm not going to.
But I'm going to stay in a distance.
And I'm going to stay in my lane. Yeah, I'm going to stay in my lane. And that's not the case. And, I really hate to, and I really want to reiterate it again, because like, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at someone who did that to us. I'm not mad at anybody who did that to us. And the same thing is like her feelings, she's not, and I don't want to put words in her mouth.
I'm not mad. It's one of those things that like now seeing friends go through the same thing, it's really hard to hear those words 79 times a day.
It is. It's one of those things is like, hey, I'm glad that you're there for us. And we are thankful. I was thankful. I was so thankful that you were there for us. but it was still hard to hear because like it wasn't that I was mad at you. It keeps bringing it back, and if it doesn't bring it back, it doesn't take. It's never going to leave that we lost lost our son. But it's the hard aspect of, man, I'm kind of like envious. Like I'm jealous that my son is like, I'm here, my son's not, like everything else. And we'll get to another episode on that as well. But I don't know. I mean, that was just the hardest part. Like, and I'm not mad at nobody.
I'm not mad. It's just, it is a hard situation to go through. And I think when death happens, people are automatically like, oh, I'm going to pay my condolences. It's the right thing to do. And it is. And I mean this with all respect, but at the same time, if you are not close to that family, kind of keep your distance. Like, pay your condolences, send a card, send whatever, do whatever you want to do. But also respect that in that time is probably going to be the hardest days of their entire life, navigating what they do from there. And if there's people at their house that they've seen one time in their entire life, it makes it very difficult to grieve properly. And then when you got people coming out of the woodworks and our equation, I guess you could say, there was people that come out of the woodworks for clout, like they wanted attention more than anything with Emmitt's death. And I'll get into that in a whole other podcast because that would be an hour-long episode in itself. But it's like, don't make it about you. Pay your condolences, move on. If you're close with those people, it's a different story. If they want you there, it's a different story. But like, when you don't know these people and you show up to their house just because you feel like it's the right thing to do and you sit for hours upon hours, it's not necessarily the right move.
It's not. I mean, I can say that it's not necessarily there, but I'm grateful that they kind of did that because of like, if they wasn't sitting there and talking to us
looking
or
back
us
on it
watching,
now.
like looking back on it now, and like you don't think about this in the moment, like when it happened.
In the moment, you're more caught up in what you're feeling. Yeah.
But like looking back on it now, I'm so grateful because our house wasn't silent at that time. Like when family would show up and if they brought their little kids or, you know, and it's not like they were bringing babies, but if they brought like, you know, they have kids too. And I'm not going
and nephews.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell them not to bring their nieces and nephews around because that's kind of messed up. You know, they just want us. They want to see us just as much and love on us too.
I think I loved having the kids there more than
I think it helped because
else.
like you're hearing that noise. You're hearing. You're kind of hearing normal.
It was hard. I'm not going to lie. Like seeing the kids run around and play, and then all you can visualize is like my child's never going to get that with their cousins. But having the kids, like I don't know.
Well, I think it was the hardest. Like when everybody left.
Yeah.
And that was honestly probably what I dreaded.
Yeah.
You know, because like when people have to go home, people have to go to work, people have to resume their normal lives. But like your sister would sit with us for hours.
Yeah.
You know, like stay with us forever.
Yeah.
And that's like the same thing. It's like, well, like you don't want them to leave.
She was kind of my backbone, I guess.
And that's like Austin. Austin never left. Like I feel like he never went anywhere, you know?
It's one of those things that it's like, I don't know. Grief is weird. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. But
what other kind of questions you got for me?
Do you ever regret not going to therapy through all this? Like as a man?
Okay.
Because you've never been to therapy.
To answer your question, I don't know. I truly don't know. Now that I've started this, I would say yes. Before I started this, I would probably say no.
Yeah. Because you've always been anti-meds, anti-therapy.
And as a kid, and I grew up without a father, and I think if I grew up with, even if I grew up with a father, I still think it would be a bad juju type thing, like a bad stigma, like you don't go to therapy.
Yeah.
And I think that is the problem with society. I think that is the problem with everything that is going on in today's world, that a man is still looked at to be the sole provider, the one who has to provide for the house, the one who has to hold everything on his shoulders, the one who has to be able to take all the blows at one time and be able to handle it.
Yeah.
And like, we're not taught that as kids. We're not. I was never taught how to like regulate my emotions or be a man in the aspect of emotional.
Yeah.
Now, like being manly, yes, that's what we're taught. That's like fathers out there, and like I'm the same way with my kids, and that's what I am working on because I don't want them to grow up the same way I did. So I would say yes. Now in my time, like before I was like, no, I don't know. Or before it's like, no, heck no, I would not go to therapy. But yes, I do regret it. And the reason why is because like I feel like I would never be in as bad a place as I have been.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's that I have to go see a therapist or if I have to talk to somebody else about therapy, because I didn't talk to nobody. Like the first time that ever happened with what's happened with Emmitt was when I talked to you, me and you talking back and forth, and me opening up more to you.
Yeah.
That's the most I've ever opened up.
Yeah.
Like I didn't open up to nobody. Like after the wreck, I didn't care to talk to nobody. I talked to Tim, but at the same time,
I think
like
we didn't talk therapy for a long time, and you just
but we didn't talk about. You don't talk about like certain things, like and that is the whole stigma in men is that you're raised to be manly. You're raised to go hunting, go fishing, work on cars, play sports. Do those types of things. And even now it's kind of gotten more popular now because like social media has become popular, that even before social media was a bad thing for men.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you don't get on here. And like, this is probably frowned upon from a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like people probably look at me and like, why is he talking about it? Why is he even expressing his emotions? Why is he telling people that he went through some shit?
Yeah.
Because it's not fair to us. It's not fair to men that that we're still stigmatized to look like to be able to hold everything together when everything around us in life is falling apart.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hard part. And I think if I had somebody to talk to and go to therapy or just talk to whoever it may be and open up more, because I didn't open up in general, but I really think that therapy would have helped me. That, hey, you can get through this while still being a man. You're still allowed to cry, because I didn't cry. I didn't ever openly cry to anybody until like we lost Emmitt. Yeah. And like that was still hard. Like I still hit a lot of that. Like a lot of people still don't see me cry.
Yeah.
Like you're the person who's seen me cry the most. So it's kind of hard, because you're asking me that question, because like, I talk to you like, and I think that's what saved us. And I think that's what's helped us get through everything that we've ever been through, is like, no matter how mad we get at each other and how mad, like no matter what we're fighting about or bickering about, it's kind of like one of those things is, I think we've both kind of taken that true to heart, is when people tell you what is like one word of advice that people give you, like when you get married, and that's to not go to bed mad. Like we don't do that. No. And I think that's like the hard aspect of like people take that with like a grain of salt and they don't really listen to it. And I think that's what's kind of really helped us.
Pride thing. Yeah. I feel like in marriages, I think the number one failing thing that I think marriages do with trauma or without trauma is they're like, oh, I'm not going to apologize because I wasn't in the wrong.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with it.
Pride.
And I think it comes down to the fact that, me and you still bicker. We bicker about crazy things. But like even like yesterday with like this whole podcast, we're supposed to record this podcast like the day before today. And, it's kind of like, you did not feel good.
Yeah.
And then like I'm overwhelmed because I had to drop off stuff.
We had a lot.
I had to get stuff done. We had to go pick up Everett from school. And it's not that it was like there was so much on my plate that was going through my mind, not really on my plate, but like really just racing through my mind, trying to figure out, hey, how am I going to do this? Because like next week's going to be even busier for us.
Yeah.
Like we don't have that ability to say, oh, we can waste an entire day shooting a podcast.
Yeah, we don't.
Like we still
have jobs that.
Yeah, like we have a couple hours to get this done, if that. So it's kind of like, oh, wait a minute. And I think that was kind of the aspect, is because like you kind of thought that I was bashing you.
Yeah.
And I wasn't. I was just trying to express my feelings towards the situation.
You feel very overstimulated.
Yeah, and I think that's like the whole problem with everything, is because like I think that's hard too, and I think you realized it too, and I have to realize it with you, is like if you get overstimulated or really overwhelmed at something, hey, I need to calm down, and like we need to figure out what's going, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think like with us communicating that, because like we calm down after a while, you know what I mean?
There's days where I'm like, hey, I just need a minute. Like I need you to like not talk to me for a minute.
Yeah.
I need to breathe. Like I feel like everybody's like closing in on me, and like the whole schedule thing, it gets hard. We live very busy lives and we work a lot, and we are very involved with our children and the things that they do. And you have this podcast now, and we have a business, and like it's businesses. Like, I mean, we've got a lot going on, and there's just a lot of health things going on with me, and the boys are in therapy, and like, so we're all the time everywhere. And I feel like yesterday I I don't know. I didn't take into consideration that you felt that way because you don't get overstimulated a lot.
It's not like, I mean, I guess it is overstimulated, but
I
I don't like using that term.
or overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed, yeah.
I guess you could say like you don't get that way a lot. Like I get that way like 7 times a day. And you don't do that. And like, so I guess yesterday I felt like you were like coming at me about like that we didn't have the time to do all these things because I didn't feel good and things like that. And in reality, it had nothing to do with me. And I think that's a big thing in marriages too. And we're still working on that because that is one of our main problems is I don't always see your side of things and you don't always see my side of things. And I think that there's days where I'm like, man, he's jabbing at me. Like he's making this about me.
Or like you're taking jabs at me and it's not the case. It's just kind of like, it's kind of just like saying our feelings out loud because like if we don't really do that, then it's just going to bottle up and we're going to hate each other or start to resent each other. And I don't ever want that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like that's one of those things is like, I'm so glad that we actually are able to like communicate with one another. And like we hear it now, like we have friends and like we have people who are going through a lot of stuff in their life, like a lot of things that are happening in their lives that's overwhelming them, that you still have to realize that you guys are a married couple, boyfriend and girlfriend, girlfriend and girlfriend, whatever it may be, you guys are still a couple. And the biggest thing to get through it or how you're ever going to get through it is sitting down and communicating with each other. And you may not like what you have to say. Like Dakota, hard. Yeah, like Dakota may sit here and call me like fat and ugly or something, right? And I'm going to have to go get my hind end in the gym, right? And it's not that, she's never said that. I'm just, being facetious, but I'm just saying like you have to take that.
Sometimes you have to put it in check.
Like, you have to put each other in check sometimes and say, hey, look, like, and, it kind of happened yesterday, it's like, no, I'm not bashing you. I'm just saying my feelings out loud. Right. And you have to communicate that with your partner or whoever it may be to let them understand that, hey, look, I'm going through something too. Because the moment that you don't do that is the moment that things start to get worse.
Yeah.
I feel like that's when everything starts to will start to trickle down and crumble because like slowly all it's going to do is it's just going to make you think that I'm constantly bashing you and bashing you and bashing you.
And I think the point I'm trying to make is like safe spaces in marriages don't just appear. Like you have to create them.
Yes.
Like you both have to be on the same page and you have to make that safe space. And I think one of the best things we ever did for I can't even say marriage because we weren't even married when Emmitt passed away, but like our relationship as a whole was creating our safe place and knowing that nothing was off limits in that safe space. And like our safe space was our shower. Like we had agreed, like if any time like things get too much, you grab me, we're going to go get in the shower. Yeah. We're going to cry it out because there's already water in the shower.
Yeah, so we were crying. Boy,
so tears are added. It don't feel as bad
and like
when you're laying in a dry bed and you're soaking yourself.
And then you're waking up, like you're laying there and your shirt's covered in water.
So, and it's honestly, I feel like it was more, we were in a confined space. In our bedroom, like, or in our bathroom, like the shower's not very well lit. So it was kind of dimmed and it like set the tone for like, hey, we're going to talk about some deep stuff and then we're going to get out of here and we're going to go back to normal.
Like
we're going to get through this and we're going to be okay. And there was many days where the water ran cold and we just kept crying. And it was like, you have to create those moments for yourself. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of couples or women or men that watch our life in general on a spotlight. And I think it's because, I put our life on a spotlight for the most part. And then now with the podcast, like you're putting our life more on spotlight, but there's people that are struggling with figuring out how to make things their new normal.
Yeah.
And that is my best advice is to create that safe space for.
Yeah. And like, guys, it doesn't have to be your shower. Like, hey, if
it
you,
could be wherever.
Yeah. Make it your car or a car. Closet or whatever it may be. You know what I mean?
Or a restaurant. Like, I've talked to several couples that like when they need a minute to get outside of themselves, they will go to a certain place or a certain brewery or a certain coffee shop or a certain bench in the park or anything like that. And you sit and you talk and you get it all out. And then you go back to your normal.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard. But if you go without talking, that is where you're going to fail. And I'm not saying that like there's going to be things that you may want to keep to yourself for a while. And there was a lot of things I kept to myself for a while. And there's a lot of things that Dakota kept to himself for a while. But at some point we had to be like, hey, we got to give it all up.
Exactly.
You got to go all in. You've got to commit to this. Okay. So my last question for you, out of everything that we have done in the past almost 6 years, what is something that you regret in our journey?
Something I regret?
Yeah.
Nothing? You trying to trick me here?
No. You want me to tell you what mine is? And then maybe it'll provide some context.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out like how, like,
so
what do you mean?
Something that I regret in
I'm going to let you answer this because
Okay.
I'm going to come back and respond with this and I'm going to make you cry.
Probably. So something that I regret is like having this idea that I thought people would know how to act. And I know we talked about this a little bit earlier in the podcast, but like I lost a lot of people for a little bit that were really close to me because I just expected that they should be a certain person for me.
Yeah.
And that's where I failed. Like I expected people to always be there and always remember the important days and always know when I needed them. And like nobody's telepathic. Like nobody knows when, like, even though we lived together, there was moments that I probably needed you that you didn't realize I needed you. But if I never told you, how can I blame you for not being there?
Yeah.
And this isn't really even
like having such a high expectation.
Yeah. But like I had such high expectations for the people in my life. And I feel like I really dropped the ball there. Like one of my best friends, I didn't talk to her for a really long time. And I was very, very mad for a long time in that situation. And then one day I just apologized. And I was like, look, I don't know why I acted the way I acted. And I don't know what really happened. I just know that I was hurt. And I guess I had so much anger that I felt like I needed to put it somewhere.
Yeah.
And I put it in all the wrong places. And I pushed away a lot of people. There was people that left my life that were meant to leave my life. But like, there was also people that I should have gave them a little bit of grace in some situations. And same for you. Like there was days where I would be so mad at how you would grieve like deep down. And I should have gave you grace because you were giving me grace, because like there would be days that I'd just sit in Emmitt's room and just cry. And there was a lot of days where I was like, man, it would just be really nice to like be able to do this together.
Yeah.
But then that was selfish of me because I cannot make you or force you to feel the same way that you felt the same way, but like do it and express it the same way that I did. And I think it also hurts when like birthdays come around and like people don't quite remember, or death day comes around and people don't remember the days. And, you know, I'm a psychopath and I put things in my calendar because I'm a planner, probably because of trauma. But like, if I know that there's a particular day that's really important to somebody that I love, I put it in my calendar.
Yeah.
And like birthdays and days that would really mean something to someone. And I have gained a lot of people since Emmitt passed away that have been super good to me and a valuable resource to, I guess you could say, recovering from that kind of trauma. But at the same time, like I do deeply regret feeling like I felt in those moments where I felt like people should have all the right answers or say all the right things.
Yeah.
Because we mess up and sometimes we say things that we don't quite think about in that moment. And then later on, we're like kicking ourselves in the ass because we're like, why did we say it? Or why did we word it like that? So that's kind of my deepest regret in all of that, was having such high expectations that people just automatically knew what to do. And honestly, I didn't even know what to do. And it was my child. So I think that's where I messed up.
Makes sense.
So what's your thoughts?
I mean, I can answer this so generically and then probably be like, you know, nothing. I don't regret nothing because, you know, I have you. But I'm not going to do that because that's so bland. Honestly, I set expectations and I you know, I see exactly where you're coming from with that aspect of everything. And I'm so glad that you're a planner because I think that's really like kind of made me kind of start to plan out more things, because like now I actually know how to enter stuff into a calendar. Like I enter my own doctor's appointments like a big boy.
So proud.
I am. I'm doing so good. I'm so proud of myself for that. And I think it's like truly because of you, right? Because like I'm shared in your calendar, and like your calendar has like 1,000 things on it. So it's like impossible. So like, it's impossible to schedule my day around because I'm like so confused because it's like, oh, wait a minute. I don't work at a wedding venue, but why is there a wedding in here? Well, my wife does. But, I can sit here and say it's the high expectations and say that. And it was because I did have higher expectations, I felt like, for people. But, you can't say just that. Honestly, it was myself. It was me being the person that I am. And I think it was that I was never back to like the whole thing of, not having a father and how to like control your emotions or be emotionally regulated or emotionally there.
Yeah.
I think that was probably like my biggest regret, that I wasn't fully emotionally there. Maybe for you, to a point. But like to myself, no. To like others, no. And I still think that's like still my biggest regret now, is that like I have people who are going through things. I've had people who have asked me, how did I cope with it, or how do you cope with it? And I think that is my biggest, like one of my biggest regrets, is being so standoffish and being so
about your feelings.
Yeah, about my feelings and about opening up and about being there.
True about it.
Yeah, and I think that was like my hardest. Like the hardest thing, and like one of the biggest things I regret is that, I was just so blinded by everything that I guess that I've been through, and like my own pain and my own hurt, that, I don't want to talk about it. I want to just put everything down in deep down inside and hide it. And I think that was the aspect of like, even with you, I didn't like, I cried in front of you and I expressed my feelings in front of you, but like, like you said, there was things that was not said, and I didn't say a lot. Because I didn't want to say them to you. You know what I mean?
That burden on me.
And it was not that I didn't. Yeah, that's exactly right. It wasn't that, hey, I'm trying to hide something from you. It's exactly right. I did not want to put burden on you because I'm already going through enough, and I'm already sitting here thinking, and like, I'm already going through enough. You're going through so much. And it's like the same aspect. It's like, man, I do not want to sit here and tell my wife everything that's going on with me. I don't want to tell her that I'm feeling like I'm going to go, do whatever I got to go do, that I'm planning to run away. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was time, and not leave you, because I didn't ever want to leave you, but there was times that I just wanted to get away.
Still valid.
Yeah. There was times I just wanted to get away in my own safe, like in my own area, and be alone. And it wasn't that I didn't want to take you, because I didn't want to ever leave you. It was the fact that, hey, I just want to go sit on a rock and just hang out. Like, I just want to be alone for days. And there was times that I could sit here and say that. And I think that's my biggest regret, is that I didn't, you know what I mean? Like, there was times that I didn't open up fully, or I wasn't there fully, like emotionally for you. I wasn't there emotionally for myself, and like, I didn't know how to regulate it all. You know what I mean? So I think that's like the hardest thing, is that, I just wasn't there, And
I honest to God, like, I'm glad that you answered in that way, because I believe that the reason that men's mental health is so like stigmatized, or whatever, however you want to word that, is because men don't show their emotions. So when something tragic happens to a man and you see them given this false reality of what their grief and what their recovery looks like after something traumatic's happened, no matter what it may be, other men see that, and other men are like, man, Dakota was so ballsy. Like, he didn't cry. He didn't do this.
Exactly.
He just went back to normal 5 days after everything happened.
Yeah.
That's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's what a man is supposed to do.
And that's what people, that's exactly what people see.
That is the twisted part of all of this, is that it gives them false hope. And then it makes them feel even more like a piece of shit when they aren't in the same place that you were.
Well, it's a lot different. It's a lot different in aspect too, is because like, it's never been... Like, men don't sit around talking about their feelings all the time.
Yeah.
It's not a big thing. Like, we may talk about hunting, fishing, football, or, whatever. And you may on a good day, like, you have a friend that's hanging out with you and, hey man, I'm going through a rough time in my life. But at that aspect, and they may open up and they may tell you, but it's not something that happens every day. Yeah. It does not happen every day. And like, it's more... And I'm not trying to say anything wrong with this, because there's nothing wrong with it, but it is really more of women who sit around and like, they talk about their feelings. They tell how they're doing. Like, you may go in there and you may tell your friend, I'm having a bad day, or, this girl messed up my hair, or this girl, did this, or, I'm feeling sad today. And they may ask you that, but the same aspect, men don't talk about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the whole issue, is because like, we're taught at a young age to be Like we're not taught at a young age to do anything. We're taught to be manly. That's what it is. Like, hey, men don't cry. Men don't do this. Men don't do that. Yep. And that's not the aspect of it, because like, I think that is what causes men to kill themselves.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is, because like the suicide rate for men is so high. It's one of the leading causes in men's death.
Yeah.
It's not, and besides like heart disease, and it's because like you sit down and like you hold on to something that you should not hold on to. And I think that's the problem. And I think I did that. And that's why I answered your question. Yes. Now to therapy, 100%, like 100% therapy. I should have always done therapy. I should have done it when we lost Emmitt. I should have done it after the wreck and whatever, because like there was times that, I felt like I needed it, but I didn't do it because it's frowned upon, Yeah. And that's one of the big things.
Do you have any questions for me?
No, not today. Not today.
Not today.
Not on this one.
That's good. I got off easy.
Because we're rambling. We're rambling. You think these cameras are still recording? We're at the end of the podcast for today. Me and her have to be done. We have to get some things done for today. It's been good. She's going to be on here probably a lot more because like I said, we could really just sit here and talk for days and hours, and neither one of us really, we have time for it, but we have to do our other jobs and get some editing and stuff done. But I think it's going to be a big thing to just have her come on more, because like you get to see her side of her perspective on things, because we are married, so it's a lot different. And you can see my perspective. So like us rambling. So I know a lot of this podcast was just us rambling today. And, I just want to thank you guys for listening. And once again, just want to thank you for all of the support. And so it's been great. And if you guys need help with anything, if you want to reach out to me, if you're going through anything, even if you want to reach out to me anonymously, I will. You don't even have to come on the podcast. You don't have to be a part of the podcast. All you have to do is, if you want to send me like the type of issues that you're going through, or like a topic that you would like for me to talk about, me or Dakota or me or whoever it may be, send it to my email. It's at mentalkpod@gmail.com. Send that over to me, and then we can get going on everything. I want to make this more interactive for you guys, not only just for myself. So that way, I have topics to talk about. And so that way you can kind of see how like me and her combat everything, or me or whoever else it may be, can answer your questions. And then, just, reach out to me, follow my socials, and keep up with everything. So that way we can kind of, help you guys out and, help myself out. It's kind of still a tricky situation because we are still going through a lot with everything that's happening. And what I mean by that is not like my emotions, her emotions, but, she also is scheduled to have surgery in December. And so it's a pretty scary surgery that we're going to have to go through together. And, you're going to hear more about that, of course, but it's one of those things it's still weighing on me. It's still weighing on her, and you get to experience, firsthand, like kind of what that will kind of be like. And, I'm just glad that you guys are here to listen to us. Is there anything else you want to say? You want to say to the people out there?
No, I mean, today's been great. I'm glad that I didn't cry completely. I feel like if I was saying all this alone, I'd probably cry way more than like having
I agree. I really think it's a lot easier to talk to somebody, guys, get therapy. Yeah. Therapy is key, because I'm gonna tell you, I just had this whole conversation and it was like, I would probably been bawling my eyes out. You've already watched me cry enough.
Yeah. And there was a lot of hold back in some of the things that I said, because I'm an ugly crier, and once I start, I can't stop.
Well, there's gonna be time there's gonna be a time and place for that.
I'm gonna be on the podcast more as time goes on, but like he said, like I have a very busy life. I have a lot of medical problems, and there's a lot going on. But if there's ever any topics that any child loss families are listening to this, or trauma or childhood trauma or any of those, if you have a topic that you would like discussed, or if you have a question and need our perspective on how you should handle a certain situation, email that into him, or you can message me personally on Facebook. And we'll talk about it. Cause that's the main purpose of this entire podcast, is communicating to other people that it's okay to feel how you feel. And that like, you're not losing any type of battle by asking for help, and you're not losing any type of battle by asking for someone else's perspective. And I know sometimes not everybody has friends or family that has been through something similar to what they've been through or been through a lot at all. And so having another perspective to look at things is great, and we can keep you anonymous, or if you want your story to be told, I feel like that would be really good. If you're going through something in your marriage, and we're not marriage experts, but like something related to kind of what we've been through, and you need help, then just reach out and send us questions or anything like that. And if you don't want it on the podcast, I'm sure one of us can help you, even if you don't want us to come on here and talk about it. But always remember that talking about it helps someone each and every day know that what they're dealing with is normal. What?
I'm just listening to you. You stress me out so bad.
Normal. What? Is normal.
She's going to hear this, guys, when like we play the video, and this section, I don't even care. This section is going to be cut out right here, and me just messing with her, but it's all right. She knows that I'm just messing with her.
All right, now I'm aware of my arms, and I can't even talk. So have a great day,
guys. Like she said, when it comes to reaching out to us, you know, I was talking to the lady who's supposed to be coming on with us, and you know, I kind of want to get ahead of myself, and I'm going to get ahead of myself. But like Dakota said, if there's anything that you guys are facing, or if you would like us to talk about or answer, just reach out to us. And then, you know, men, if you are going through a burden in your life right now, like something that is something like heavy on your heart or heavy on your mind or whatever it may be that you're struggling with in life, in general, if you just want to talk to somebody, or if you want to mail it in to me or email me or message me, man, and I will be glad to cover the topic with just not only me, but with the lady who's coming on with Bethany, or me and Dakota. We'll cover it and try to answer it the best we physically can, or just by myself as a man-to-man conversation. You know, obviously, if you want to be anonymous, like Dakota said, I do not have to associate your information, your name, you know, date of birth, whatever. You don't want to tell me, I will not tell anybody about it. You know what I mean? It is just going to be between me and you. And if you want to come on and tell your story, if you want to come on and talk about your burdens that you're going through, reach out to me and be a part of Men Talk. You know, I think this is going to truly help a lot of people. I think it's going to help not only men, but women. I've had a lot of people who have reached out to me and, you know, congratulated me or tell me that it's already helping them. And the same thing with Dakota. She's had a lot of people already reach out to her. And I think it's just going to continue to grow. And I want it to continue to grow to just help someone else out there. Because like I've told you guys before, if this helps someone stay another day, that's all I want. Right? That's all me and Dakota want. I want you guys to be able to make it through your marriages, through your relationships, through life in general. I want you guys to be able to survive. I want you guys to, you know, not only survive, but thrive. Right? I truly just want that for everybody. I don't ever see the point of, you know, holding back on successes for anybody. And I mean, if you have a success story and you want me to talk about it, man, just reach out to us, or you want to come on here and talk about it. I would love to hear it. You know, and I know everybody else would love to hear it, because like I said before, if you may not connect with me, you may not connect with my wife, you may not connect with Bethany, you may not connect with anybody else that I have come onto the show, but if someone else is going through something that you happen to talk about, you could also help save someone else's life, right? And I think that's just the best way to do it. Right, is to just be able to help somebody. Guys, have a great day. Once again, if you have any problems, reach out to me at mentalkpod@gmail.com. Follow my socials. They'll pop up on the video, like right here somewhere. Just follow them. You know, listen to the podcast. Like I said, if you don't like what I have to say, then just download it, let it play for like 5-10 minutes, and be done with it. You ain't never got to listen to it again. But do it to every episode, okay? Not just one, every one. Okay, because not only does it help you, it helps me, it helps my wife, and it helps all of these people be able to hear this. And the bigger that this thing grows, the more people hear it, right? So I need your guys' help with that. Okay, like, subscribe, everything to my YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Facebook, YouTube, whatever else, OnlyFans, Bye.